Well, today's gospel reading about planting and sprouting and seeds reminds me of a couple of stories about my dad on this Father's Day. My father, who was in World War II on Utah Beach on D-Day, he got through the war and he came back and he was the only member of his family to take advantage of the GI Bill. All the rest of them went to work in the steel mills, Inland Steel in particular, East Chicago, Gary, Indiana. But he decided he wanted to be a teacher. And so he enrolled in what was called East Michigan Normal College, which became Eastern Michigan University, a proud eagle. And he got his teaching certificate, and he got hired by the North Dearborn Heights School District, which now is merged into a couple of other districts. I'm not exactly sure what district it's in now, but then it was called the North Dearborn Heights School District. And he taught 6th, 7th, and 8th graders for many, many, many years. And then he got to his 62nd year. His birthday was in January, he turned 62. And his teachers union contract had this deal that if you were a veteran, you got to retire a couple of years earlier with full pension, and that you could start your Social Security at 62. So my dad made a decision that this was his last semester and announced his retirement to all. I cannot tell you in church what my mother said. So this is now, first week in June is over. Dad has finished his last day of school. He is now officially retired. My mother was the gardener. My mother put in 2 big gardens on our acre and a half, and then she'd put in a garden at my grandfather's place right next door. She loved a garden. Oh, fresh vegetables. I mean, fresh tomatoes, fresh beans, fresh corn, fresh carrots. That's probably why I got a love for vegetables. Because if you grow up eating fresh vegetables, you'll love vegetables. You know, there's just no doubt about it. I mean, how many of you ever taken an ear of sweet corn right out the stalk, peeled it, and ate it? I know I have. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's very, very good. It's perfectly healthy, too, by the way. Yes, vegetables are great. Well, my dad, on his first Monday day off, my mother is up early. My mother and dad were both early birds. My mother's out with her hoe, hoeing around the tomato plants. My dad goes out with his big mug of coffee and a folding chair, walks out, sits down by the side of the garden, and watches my mother. Now, my dad was a helpful guy. My dad helped a lot of our relations. He had this knack for building things, especially with wood, and he was pretty good with cement too. He used to put in some nice cement patios. He just had a knack for these things. In fact, a number of things here on the parish grounds are things my dad made. The sign, the youth center sign, my dad made that. The rack I put my stoles on in the sacristy, my dad made that. And there's some other things around here my dad made for me over the years before he went to heaven. And my dad was going to help my mom too. So he sat there, watched my mom carefully and said, "Irene, you missed some weeds over there." What my mother said, I cannot say in church. But my dad learned. He learned. You know, you're a teacher, you got to learn. You want to encourage learning with your kids. You want to learn yourself. And my dad learned. The next morning he got up and he got the second hoe and went out there and helped my mother hoe. So in honor of my dad and all fathers here, I'd like all the dads to please stand. Please stand. All the dads. If your father here, stand up. Stand up. And if you're with them, hold their hand or put your hand on their shoulder, okay? Come on, Mr. Lutz, you're daddy too. Stand up. You're tall, I know. Katie, have your dad stand up. There you go. Very good. All right, everybody. Now, may the blessing of God be upon you, the blessings of the Father and the Son, and may the Spirit of love, be with you all your days. Have a round of applause for all of you.